Chris T here from the depot, bringing you another how-to video on things you can do in Run 8 to make the sim more realistic for yourself. Today's video will cover air brakes, the basics, things you need to know about the air, how they work. We'll go over some techniques, things you can do, power braking, stretch braking, how much air to set, come in and stop signals, that kind of thing. We'll go over all the terminology and gauges and things, and we'll cover everything today, so let's go ahead and get started. Before we begin, my usual disclaimer: things we're going to do in this video will be covered within the realm of the sim, and things that happen in the real world may not convey back and forth, so we're just going to try to keep it within things we can understand in the sim. And also, we'll be covering rules and methods that we use on NS, since I work for them. So BNSF guys, CSX, UP, might be a little different depending on their rules, but it's going to be generally the same. So let's go ahead and cover this display here in the ES44 first. Okay, here we have your basic air brake setup for the ES44 right now. I've got the engines all charged up. I just have two engines here. There's no train right now. We'll cover that later. But first things first, this is just how it looks normally. I have full service set here, as you can tell by I got 65 pounds on the equalizing reservoir. We'll start here on the left with some terminology. ER, the 65 is right here. This is your equalizing reservoir. This is your target when you apply the air. See, let's just release it. So there, on that release, 90 pounds. That's what the feed valve is set to right now. We'll cover that in a minute. But when you make a set, like here comes full service, that ER is your target. And you can see the brake pipe changes gradually behind it as the air changes. So when you want to put air, if you want first service, 10 pounds, 15 pounds, this is the number you set your handle to, and then the brakes follow that behind it. Here, having a minor freak out, which we'll release again to clear that, is your brake pipe. This tells you how much air is in the pipe currently. This will change gradually as you make an application of things all settle down. BC, in the left corner here, this is your brake cylinder. This is the amount of air in the cylinder attached to locomotive trucks. This is the locomotive brake. If I release the independent, brakes are now totally released on the engine. You can now put it in forward and move it, or it'll roll, whichever, and then a full independent application will get you 72 pounds on the cylinder. Next to that, where it says main, is your main reservoir. This is how much air is in the tanks down underneath the frame of the engine, right above the fuel tank. This is where all the reserve air comes from when you need to make an application and other things that the engine will use air for. The rail cleaner, the horn, all the different windshield wipers, everything. So I don't know if we'll make an application if it'll change. We don't have a train, so it may, yeah, see, it didn't really change. But when we get a train behind it, it'll be easier to show. And then over here is the rear. This is what your EOT will show. So as you make an application and an application and a release, this will show you what the rear end sees, and there'll be a discrepancy between as soon as you make the set when the air travels through the train and gets to the marker. So we'll go ahead and release it here now because we'll see our flow change on the release. The flow is how much air is moving through the brake pipe toward the back of the train, coming up and back through the pipe. On NS, the flow, when it gets below 60 psi on the flow, that is considered a release of the train brake. So when you have a longer train, your flow is going to rise on a release, and it'll slowly work its way down as the air runs through the pipe and it all kind of equalizes and settles down. So that's a basic look at the digital gauges. The SD70 AC has similar gauges. It's all presented right here in a numerical format on the screen. I'm not going to cover that. It's all the same information. But now we'll pop over into an SD40-2 and show you those brake gauges and what they mean, because they read a little bit differently than these do. We are in the cab of an SD40-2 in the sim, and I'm zoomed in here on the three main air gauges. Now within the sim, the SD40-2, GP40, tunnel motors, and the SD45-2, they all share the same cab, so it'll all be the same for all three of those. So now there's labels underneath at the bottom here. You can see the plates down here. Everything's labeled, so you don't have to guess what everything is. Over time, as you use these work locals and things like that, you'll start to, remember what everything is. This red needle right here is your main reservoir. As covered before, it's the air inside the tanks. You can see it's set to 140 pounds. The white needle in this left gauge is your equalizing reservoir. So if you want to go ahead and make a 10, let's make a 10-pound set here. So we're at 90. There's 10 pounds, 79. So there's your 10-pound set. So you can watch that needle as you make moves. That's full service down about 65 pounds. So you can watch the needle move and gauge it there. Over on the right, the red is the brake cylinder. So this will be your engine brake. We'll release the automatic. And we'll release the independent. As you see, the needle moves to 0 for full release. And all the way back to 72 pounds for an application. And your white needle on the right here, is your brake pipe. So we'll go ahead and make another 10-pound reduction. You see the needle move. We'll go to full service real quick to show you the flow indicator. Now this is in tens, so 2 is 20, 4, 40, 6, 60, and so on and so forth. So when you get a release, the gauge will shoot up and come back down, just because, again, we're two light engines. So with two engines like this, the gauges, they move just very quickly. It's tough to tell and gauge what you have going on right now. So we'll get a train. Let's get a train against it here, and then you can really see just what we're dealing with in terms of how the air is going to react and move and everything like that. So let's get a train behind the engines, and we'll go from there. We are back in the ES44. I have 2 engines and 124 cars. I believe the length is a little over 7,000 feet. So that'll play a factor in how the air performs, because you have all that room you got to cover. So I currently have everything released. I got a marker on the rear, showing 90 back here. So I'm gonna go ahead. Let's just do full service. Let's just put a full service application on. So here it comes. Watch our reservoir right here. All right, now you can see how much slower the brake pipe moves with a full train behind it as everything reduces. You see your rear end is still coming down there. Now the application has reached the rear. So what was that, maybe 7, 8, 10 seconds, something like that? So when you go to use air, you kind of got to plan ahead. You can't just assume as soon as you set the air, it's going to go right back. It's going to take some time to run back through the train. See, let's bring the train graph up here. See your train graph up here? See, it's still, this is the purple up here is the hardest it can be applied without being an emergency. See, it's still red. It's still working its way back through the train. As you can tell on the brake pipe and following the number on the marker, you can see it's working its way back through there. In one of my other videos where I covered the Class 1 brake test, I used this graph to simulate walking a train and making sure all the brakes are applied. Well, in this case here, you can tell, you can follow it. You can follow the air down through the train to tell you exactly how much air, has been applied down through it. So you can see the rear is dropping. Well, I'm not going to wait to get down to the rear. We'll go ahead and get a release. And you can watch the gauges make a move. So as soon as you release it, the equalizing reservoir will go to 90 pounds. Right away, the brake pipe will come up. Now see your flow? Now your flow is not coming up as fast. And it's going to change too, because the rear end is still applying. It was still working its way down. Now the rear end has changed. You can see your graph up here is changing too. Now the purple's disappearing. The red's coming in as the air now releases back through the train. You can watch your gauges move. Now releasing like this, like I said, on NS, they consider on Norfolk Southern, you need 75 pounds on the rear and a flow of 60 before you can start pulling on the train. That is considered a adequate release at the rear of the train, because if you start pulling on a train with the the head end's releasing gradually and the rear end's still applied, if you start pulling on it, there's a good chance you could get a knuckle, break a knuckle back here, because you're tugging hard on cars that are rolling, and you're tugging against cars that are still being held in place by the brakes, and they're not going to want to roll with the brakes applied. So, most general cases, try to get 75 on the rear, 60 on the flow. You know, try to let your flow come down a little bit before you start pulling on it. And that's pretty much it for the brake gauges, and with the train behind it, and how to read what's going on behind you. So let's go ahead. We'll move into some scenarios about how to use the brakes and techniques you can use with the brakes to control train speed, to slow a train down, bring a train to a stop, leaving it all stretched out nice and easy. So let's move on to some of those scenarios. Okay, we're currently moving south on the A line. We're coming into Tocoi. We're going to take the train down to the south end on the main, and we're going to bring it to a stop. So we'll pretty much just go over little basic things. When to set the air, how much air to set. I'll show you bailing off. That's something I wanted to cover too. So we'll get down here a little closer to the other end. Looks like we do have the approach. We sure do. So we'll start throttling down. We'll start making our way toward 30 miles an hour per the rule. Once the approach is seen, you must reduce to medium speed immediately. Prepare to stop at the next signal. So we're working our way down, and I'll see you at the other end when we get ready to make the stop. Okay, we're about halfway through Tocoi here, coming down to the south end. Got it down under medium speed, so we're getting it down. Now, one of the first things on the approach is you want to figure out where do you want to stop at. Now, obviously, you want to be on this side of the signal. That goes without saying. But, a landmark. You want to stop near the restaurant on the left. How about the pile of junk over on the right? In this case here at Tocoi, there's a road crossing down here. So we don't want to block the road crossing, so obviously we want to stop this side of the road crossing. So right there you already have a gauge of what you need to be doing to get the speed down to be manageable to make your stop down here. Now I believe when I took the signal back there, it was doing about 42. I just put a little dynamic on, let it ride itself out. I don't have a big train behind me for this little test. But we'll just work our way down here nice and easy. Little dynamic on, just bringing it down. Never be in a hurry. I can tell you from multiple first-hand experiences, you don't want to be in a hurry on the railroad, even in the sim, because even hurrying and causing problems in the sim has real-world implications. You could bring the server down if you do something crazy, or what have you. So I'm gonna come out of dynamic here. I might actually pull on it just a little bit. We'll see what happens. So we're down to a manageable speed. I can pretty much do anything. One thing I've read, a really good piece of advice, is that you can do anything with 10 pounds of air and enough planning. So in this case, you want to figure out where you want to stop. You could put minimum service on and then go to 10 pounds. You can pretty much do whatever you want with that. So that's something to always consider. Usually 10 pounds is it's kind of like a target guys shoot for, because on NS when you stop you need to have at least 10 pounds, and when you use the air and you're moving, you need to make a further reduction of 10 pounds because you don't want sticking brakes behind you if you're power braking, which again we'll cover when we do power braking here in a little bit. But right now we're just coming nice and easy. There's the whistle board, so we're within our little target zone here. So we'll just roll it down nice and gentle. I think too depends on are we waiting on a signal? Are you going to get recrewed here? How close do you want to get to the crossing? Since we're going to use that as our marker. So, all right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put first service on. Here it comes. Now, if you watch, there's first service. And you see the independent's applying here, so we need to bail off by moving the independent lever to the right on the rail driver. Not sure what the key binding is on the keyboard. And you can see it's stopping pretty easily. You can give it a notch. See how I throttled up right there? You can pull on it a little bit to stretch it out. This ensures your slack will remain stretched out the whole time, so when you go to pull, you won't have you won't be tugging on every knuckle every time. Everything is all nice and stretched. So, see, we're speeding up a little bit. Good, knock a throttle down one. It should just gradually come to a nice, easy stop. There you have it. Idle, center the reverser, full independent. And when you stop like this on the main line, like this, you need to have at least 10 pounds on the brake, on the automatic brake when you're stopped on the main line. So we'll go ahead and knock it down to make a further reduction. 80 on the reservoir, 80 on the pipe, and here comes the reduction on the rear. So there you go, all legal, full independent, 10 pounds, you're legal. Now when I bailed off back there, it slowed down, it grabbed pretty quick. When you bail off, the normal, I believe the rule is they want 4 to 5 seconds per engine in your consist. So you can kind of, when you bail, I have 2 engines, so about 10 seconds on the bail is what I would shoot for as a target. Yeah, it seems like in Run 8, when we make an application on the automatic and the brake cylinder comes up, especially when I'm doing brake tests, I notice this, that the independent applies very slowly, so it may take longer to bail off depending, like I said, your mileage may vary depending on your units and everything like that. So that right there, that is simple stretch braking. Coming into a stop, setting the air, getting it a couple knots. You want to go crazy, you don't want to be going like the 5, 6, trying to pull on it, because that's where you'll break a knuckle. But just 1 or 2, just keep it nice and stretched out. Now, when you go to release and you go to pull, your train will all be stretched out. You won't have to be, every single knuckle won't be, the slack will be running out as you pull, and then the whole train will move. So now you can probably get a nice easy pull right out of here, no problem. And the 10-pound rule I just mentioned, you don't need 10 pounds. I mean, you can go deeper. If you're more comfortable with 15 on, that's fine if you're sitting there. If you want full service, put full service on. If that's what you want. Whatever you're comfortable with sitting there, just as long as you got some kind of air on over 10 pounds sitting there. That's a rule we're always taught, and it's a good rule of thumb to go by. So that's stretch braking into a stop signal in a nutshell. So now we'll move on to power braking, which is using air and throttle together to reduce speed but not stopping. So we'll check that out. Okay, we're currently coming into Yukon on the A line again, running one of my favorite trains, southbound Autorax Q235. Got 50 of them. That's normally how this train operates. It's good for 70, so I'm building up some speed. Up here, in about 5 or 6 miles, is Orange Park. And that is a 40-mile-an-hour curve, and I'm in 70-mile-an-hour territory. This is an excellent place to power brake into. It's perfect. You're downhill, nice long straight stretch. You can set some air up. It's perfect for this. So this is one of my favorite places to run right through. Actually, I love power braking into this curve in Orange Park. So we're gonna try to get the train up to speed, and we'll demonstrate it for you here in a few minutes. We'll get up here around the curve. Alrighty, coming into South Yukon. Got it up to 60. Might not do much better than that. But got the curve coming up here. Not this curve. This curve is still good for 70. The curve at Orange Park up here near the where they park the private cars. So blow for these crossings. Now you know the curve's coming up. That's all part of learning your territory. So you can prepare yourself when you get down in here for what you need to do to power brake into this thing. So you're not coming down like, oh crap, that's right, that's 40 curves up there. You're kind of preparing yourself. Things you want to consider coming into it. Your throttle settings, where you want your throttle at. When you're power braking, you kind of want to ease back a little bit. You don't want to be power braking in 8. You know, you kind of want to just keep it enough to stretch it out. So we'll start knocking it down here. We'll try to get it down around maybe 3 or 4. Just enough to keep it stretched out. It's downhill here through here too, so it'll start rolling. Out on the other side of this crossing is where I like to set the air up. You see, we got to lose 20 mile an hour. So, all right, so we'll set our air. First service. I'm already bailing. And you can knock your throttle back if you need to. Slowing down. Get my 10 pounds right there. Like I said, per NS's rule, 10 pounds. When you make an automatic brake application. Okay, I'm done bailing. It's coming down nicely. Now when you release, you need to give yourself enough time, too, to recharge it back up. So grab a notch, knock the air off, and go back after it. There you go, right down. Now this curve here, too, is also a tight curve. Not bad, only lost 2 miles an hour under the speed limit. That's all it took. You know, you just got to plan ahead. And the thing is that you got to play with it too. It takes, you know, it takes a few years. This Q235, you know, we've been running on the depot for, oh my, since the A-line came out. So, and it's one of my favorite trains to run. So you get adjusted to what you can and can't do with the train. So there's something, you know, you'll find places where you can power brake and others where you can't, and so on. So it's just, you got to run your territory, learn your territory, and play with your train a little bit while you're running. That's pretty much it. But that was a textbook power brake scenario right there. Just set your air and throttle modulate up and down what you need a little bit. You know, remember with freight brakes. When you're using brakes in freight service, you can't take it back once you put it on. So if you put 10 pounds on, you didn't want 10 pounds, well, you're out of luck. You're going to have to release to get your air back to do what you need to do. So, you know, plan ahead, go for minimum service when you plan ahead. And then you can make adjustments, add a pound or two, you know. It looked like we were coming in kind of hot there. That's why I went right to 10. You know, if you're gradually working on it, you know, and it looks like it's coming down, you can just squeeze a pound on or two, and then go for your 10. Get it down about, I don't know, 4 or 5 mile an hour from your target speed. Knock it off and go. So, pretty straightforward. Not too bad. And that's air brake basics in Run 8. It's pretty simple. There's not much to it. I mean, apply and release. Just got to know where you want to use it, how much you need, where you want to knock it off, you know, and when you're coming into a stop signal or something, you know, plan your stop. You know, where do you want to stop? How far from the signal do you want to be? Are there any landmarks you can think of, you know, that kind of thing. How much air am I going to, are you downhill? Are you coming downhill into the signal? Do you need to put a little extra air on so you don't roll into it? Or are you coming uphill? If you're coming uphill, maybe you just need to set air. You just need to set air to get to a, you know, once you come to a stop, you may not even need air to stop per se. You just throttle off, and she'll sit right down right there. Then put the air on to hold yourself there. That's probably all you'll need. So, like I said, that's air brake basics in a nutshell in Run 8. So, take what you saw here today, go out and run a hot shot or something like that, and try power braking into some speed restrictions, or, you know, test it out, have fun, play with it a little bit. So, hope you guys enjoyed it, and stick around for more content, and have fun out there, guys.